Welcome to the second episode in a Legendarium series about Caesar's invasion of Gaul. In Part 2, Annihilating Ariovistus, we will talk about how Caesar used the Suebi migration, led by a former ally of the Roman Republic, as an excuse to march north and continue his conquest of Gaul. In 58 BC, Caesar had started the Gallic Wars when the Helvetii nation began to migrate across Gaul. He started the wars in the name of protecting the people of Gaul. And soon enough, Caesar found yet more reason to protect the Gauls. Two Celtic kingdoms in the Rhine Valley, the Aedui and the Sequani, went to war in 63 BC, 5 years before Caesar started his Gallic campaign. The Sequani hired the Suebi, a Germanic nation led by a warrior king named Ariovistus from east of the Rhine River, to help them. With Ariovistus' help, the Sequani crushed the Aedui and forced them to pay tribute. However, Ariovistus soon decided that he preferred the land west of the Rhine to his own homeland, and he seized a third of Sequani land. At first, Rome tried to flatter the new conqueror into peacefulness by proclaiming him a friend of Rome. But instead of acting like a friend, Ariovistus used this breathing space to begin a huge migration of the Suebi. He moved 120,000 people across the Rhine River, including women and children, a sign that they intended to stay. Pretty soon, Ariovistus pressed the Sequani for even more land, and took hostages from both the Aedui and the Sequani to get what he wanted. Facing the loss of their kingdoms, the Aedui and the Sequani sent envoys to Caesar, fresh from his victory over the Helvetii. They congratulated him on his triumph and asked him for help against Ariovistus. Caesar now had a perfect excuse to press further into Gaul. He intended to conquer modern-day France, and he saw the Suebi as a potential threat to his ambitions. As Ariovistus was still technically a friend of Rome, Caesar could not simply go to war with him. So Caesar instead sent an envoy asking Ariovistus to drop his further demands and further offered to let him keep what he had already conquered, a generous offer. Instead, Ariovistus replied that if Caesar could conquer when and if he liked, then so could he. As if to make his point, thousands more Suebi crossed the Rhine River, raiding and pillaging the Gauls as they went. Using the justification that Ariovistus had broken his friendship with Rome, and again presenting himself as protector of the Gauls, Caesar again went to war. Both Caesar and Ariovistus knew how important Vesontio, the largest town in the region, was to their plans. With strong fortifications and plenty of supplies, the man who controlled this hill fort would have a great advantage in the coming battle. Caesar took control of the town first, but rumors soon began to reach his army about the sheer size of Ariovistus' force. Even worse, Ariovistus managed to outmaneuver Caesar by placing his camp on the Roman supply line. And rather than simply attack, Ariovistus waited, hoping to leave Caesar's troops good and hungry before a decisive battle. As rumors spread about the size of Ariovistus' army, panic rose among the legions and a mutiny seemed near. Caesar quelled the mutiny by appearing before his angry and fearful troops, and he declared that he would face Ariovistus with the loyal 10th Legion alone if he had to. His superhuman calm, despite being outnumbered over 2-1, had a profound effect upon the legionaries, and this shamed the other forces into remembering their oaths. Ariovistus then asked Caesar to meet him at the nearby forest of Vascus, but little came of the meeting, perhaps because Ariovistus remarked that if he murdered Caesar then and there would be great rejoicing in Rome. And though Ariovistus asked for a second meeting, Caesar smelled a trap and only sent a translator. Indeed, Ariovistus had planned to kidnap Caesar, and frustrated that his scheme failed, Ariovistus instead continued to simply wait and harass Caesar as long as he could. In turn, rather than wait for his supplies to run out, Caesar withdrew toward the river Doubs and created a second camp closer to his supply line. Ariovistus continued to send raiding parties, but stopped short of an all-out attack. During one of these many forays, Caesar captured a couple of Suebi scouts. Upon interrogating them, Caesar learned that Ariovistus was reluctant to attack because his priests had prophesied that Ariovistus would lose unless he waited until after the new moon to do battle with Caesar. Armed with this knowledge, Caesar assembled his army in a triple-axis formation while keeping the cavalry in reserve. The Suebi, in turn, formed their wagons into a semicircular laager, designed to prevent them from retreating in the face of danger. Their women stood upon the vehicles to urge their men on. To Caesar's surprise, the Suebi charged so fast that the Romans could not even use their barbed javelins, called pilum, and this ruined the usual Roman tactic of forcing enemies to throw away shields with javelins stuck in them, leaving them defenseless. Thus the Suebi were able to form a shield wall, which meant a much harder fight for the legions. While the Romans kept their iron discipline, the Germans still fought with great courage. Yet the Romans fought bravely as well, wrenching shields from enemies' hands and sometimes stabbing down at them from above. For a time it looked as if the Roman left would collapse and end the battle. Then Publius Crassus, the son of Caesar's fellow triumvir Marcus Crassus, led a last-ditch cavalry charge. This caused a full collapse of the Suebi left, and when the Suebi tried to retreat over their Wagenlager, they died in such numbers that the dead could not even fall down. After routing the Suebi, Caesar hounded them for 15 bloody miles. In the end, Ariovistus turned coward, abandoned his men, and crossed the Rhine River ahead of his force, having lost 25,000 men, over a third of his fighting force. For a few days, Ariovistus lived as a fugitive. Then the vengeful and furious Suebi caught up with their former king and killed him, outraged at his cowardice and leading them to slaughter. In the winter of 58 and 57 BC, Caesar moved southwards closer to Roman territory, but he still wintered in Gaul. By doing so, he made a point. Caesar was no longer just protecting the Gauls from the Helvetii and the Suebi, he had come to take control of Gaul. Indeed, he already profited by it. To pay off the debts he had run up in Rome buying popularity, he sold thousands of slaves taken in the Helvetii and Suebi campaigns. He also began giving gifts to the people of Rome to buy yet more popularity, and won himself some admirers in the Senate by paying off the debts of spendthrift senators. This led many to wonder what exactly Caesar's endgame could be. Could he wish to buy a crown? We'll find out in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this installment of the Legendarium. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.